What's up? This is going to be another one of those videos where I just kind of touch on different topics I've been thinking about. One of them is new data sets for learning. How a lot of us treat like failure or taking a risk as binary. You either succeed or you fail, right? One or the other. But often it's not the case, right? Larry Fink, the CEO of Google, actually mentioned this in one of his interviews. It's actually like really hard to completely fail something. Like think of any example of something that you've tried. Chances are you made some progress or got like a little bit farther in what you're doing, rather than just completely failed. It's almost impossible, right? Because when you're doing this, you're getting better, right? You're actively improving, and the learning is the new data sets. You're figuring out what works, what doesn't work. So the equivalent to this is like a workout. If you go do a workout and you don't hit a PR, does that mean the workout is a failure? No, of course not, because you're just making more progress towards your goal of whatever the PR is, or whatever your goal, whether it be the physique or the way you're moving. You know, it's all in line with that. So you gotta think about that same perspective in terms of where you're wanting to go with what is the work that's gonna get me there, and use all of the training, all the experience, the quote-unquote failures as just more reps under the bar for the thing that you're trying to do. Then you're never starting from zero again. You're starting with the extra experience you have, right? And that's going to compound and build over time, and you get enough of it, then you're going to get the results you want. But usually the people who have the results you want have already had that experience of compounding, and that's why it takes so long. Because you're probably just not as good as you think you are at the moment, and it takes a while to get there. That's okay, that's part of the process. This kind of goes into that there's never really a better time to take a risk than right now. Like there's this saying, like the best time to do something was 10 years ago, the next best time is today. So if there's something you've been meaning to do, like trying to figure out what your main thing is, or maybe a hobby or something that you're kind of interested in, today is the best time to try to start it, because you know you're never going to get younger, you're never going to have a better opportunity than 10 years ago, but right now is the perfect time, because you can always just kick the can down the road, and if you keep doing that, it'll never be the right time. People often are more upset on their deathbeds about the regrets that they had during life, about the risks they didn't take, not the risks they did take that didn't work. Because going back to the first topic, you can't actually fail. Everything is just a new data set. You're learning, you're getting a little farther. And if you do this enough times, if you're able to stay in the game long enough, take enough risks, eventually it will pay off. And it might not always pay off in the way that you think it will, but you will have that experience of what you're doing, right? Whatever it is, you're learning something. Hopefully you're making improvements, trying to get like 1% better by improving what you're doing every day. And that's the important part, right? Is actively taking action towards your goals and trying to improve it. This goes into another thing I've noticed, kind of relating to insecurities, because this is a reason why I think a lot of people don't take the risk on what they want to. They don't want to try it out because, you know, they're scared either they'll fail, or that other people will judge them, or they have some insecurity that's preventing them from doing it, right? But for most insecurities, you can just say, okay, and, or yeah, and it just basically owns it. It prevents it from having any effect. This basically prevents any insecurity, because what I've noticed is that if you really own the thing, or just double down on whatever your insecurity is, no one can really use it against you or like do anything. And that's usually the worst case scenario that people have in their mind. It's not like the actual insecurity itself, it's what are other people going to think about that insecurity for me, right? Now, I'm not saying this is always good. Sometimes this can get to the point of delusion, right? But sometimes that's okay if it's something you can't change, right? Like something physical. And if it is something that you can take action on, it's your best response, since it's all you can do about it. Let me give you some examples here. So, someone calls you fat, okay, and? Or someone calls you ugly, poor, short, or anything else about your situation. You know, whatever your insecurity is, if you just own it, acknowledge it, or double down on it, it really takes away a lot of the power, and it can't really hurt you, right? Because you just need to reframe it in your mind. And if you do it, like, is it even an insecurity, right? That okay end mentality. And that's what I was saying before. It's not always good, right? Maybe it is something that you should actively change. Like if it's something you can take action before, or something that you can take action towards that is an insecurity, definitely do that. But if it's something that you can't, then just own it, right? Because there's literally nothing else you can do, so why worry about it? So two examples that I can think about from kind of like social media, pop culture right now are Togi and Clavicular. So Togi was on a podcast recently that I saw, and he was getting flamed by this financial advisor for gambling all his money away, essentially, right? Not being very good with his finances, not being very money-wise. And I think he went to school for finance or something, right? So obviously that's something that important to him. He wants to be, you know, like able to make a lot of money, good with money. But his whole response was just like, okay, and like, yeah, like I'm spending money on what I want. Maybe I'm not like the best with money in like a technical sense, but you know, it works for him. He owns it, and like there's really nothing else the guy could say to him. That's what was funny about it, right? He was like getting mad almost that he wasn't able to like get under his skin or like really get to him about this. Just because he acknowledged it and just like, okay, and because he owned it, it didn't affect him, right? Another example is Clavicular was getting flamed recently for the whole bone smashing thing. I saw this on the Bradley Martin podcast. So if you don't know what bone smashing is, it's basically like smashing your cheekbones with like a hammer or something to be able to break down the bone and regrow it to make it bigger or more prominent, essentially. So, I mean, obviously, you can see how people will find the appeal or find the comedy in this. Smashing yourself in the face with a hammer to look better is ironic, right? But the funny part is, he just kind of owned it. Like, obviously, he wants to be better looking. That's like his whole brand of look smashing. But in doing so, he's saying, like, the whole premise is you look better, you become more successful, more famous, make more money. And in doing this, even though people were making fun of him, he owned it. And he ended up making more money, becoming successful, directly correlated to this. Just by owning it, right? Both guys just own the thing, leaving the other person in front of them with nothing to say. Because if you're prepared for the worst thing that someone else can say about whatever your insecurity is, it loses a lot of its sting and it's not going to matter as much to you. Now, I'm not saying this is the best way or ideal for these specific situations. That's why I say there are extremes where it can be delusional, but I mean, being delusional to some extent is not always bad. You know, most people are ordinary by definition. If you want to do something like extraordinary out of the box, that is by definition a bit delusional. Like, why do you think that you can be that one person to do the thing that, you know, 99% of other people can't do, right? So sometimes you need a little bit of that. You need to take some of the risks, because if you don't, someone else is going to take it, get what you want, and then you're going to die with regret, right? Which is not ideal. Remember, people think about regrets on their deathbed the most, more than anything else. Partly the reason why it works so well for them is because of the authenticity about it too, right? So it's hard to be completely authentic on camera, for instance, because you're constantly thinking, what is everyone else who's seeing this going to be thinking about this? You know, do I want to say like my real opinions online, or do I want to like filter it down for the masses? Which, I mean, partly true, but being authentic is what people really resonate with, and it creates that confidence, right? Which is what people like in these influencers, is it resonates that confidence, which people want to be like, because they're so unapologetically and authentically themselves that they're just doubling down on whatever it is that could be an insecurity for other people, right? So it's actually a skill, because if you can become more authentic, other people will admire it. And if you aren't bothered by your insecurities and just own it, there's power in that. By just owning your insecurity and taking action towards fixing that if possible, or moving closer to that, is the best thing you can do, right? For example, like starting to take videos or posting yourself online. You can start like looking at all the ways that you would judge yourself, right? Like how you look on camera, like maybe any like little details that you notice about yourself. But the reality is, you're usually going to judge yourself more than other people are, because whatever you're judging yourself for is what you're probably judging other people for. And other people are judging other people for their own insecurities, so, you know, it just turns into this big, like, crazy feedback loop. But the topic for another video. But the whole point of all this is just fix what you actually can, right? If there's nothing you can do about it, just own it and take the okay and mentality, right? Because that takes away the sting of it. The worst thing that can happen is that someone like directly confronts you for your insecurity, whatever that is, right? And if you just acknowledge it and like, okay, and it takes away all the power from it, right? It shows that, I mean, maybe it's not even an insecurity at that point if you're just okay with it. Yeah, the reality is like if you're able to come to terms with it, it takes away all the sting from it and gives more of a level of like confidence for yourself, because now you're not worried about it anymore, because you've come to terms with it yourself, which is the most important part, which will help you take action towards your main thing instead of being hindered by what other people are thinking about your thing that really is just in your own head, right? For the most part. So for any of the examples, right? Like, girlfriend cheated on you. Okay, and, you know, you're short or ugly. Okay, and, you know, you live at home with your parents. Like, you're a brokey. Okay, and any other example that you can think of. If you can just acknowledge it and come to terms with it, that's fine, because you know, you're okay with where you're at. You're taking action towards your main thing, trying to improve, trying to get where you want. And that's all you can do, right? People get too caught up in the whole big picture of like everything needs to be perfect and optimized, but that's not really reality, right? Like for myself, something that I thought about is I want to make like fitness content, but you know, even like recording at the gym, like it makes me uncomfortable, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be like bothering other people, because you know, maybe in my mind I see these videos from Joey Swole online, I'm like, oh, like, well, influencers are just like bothering people. It's like, I don't want to be a bother to other people at the gym and, you know, disrupt their workout, which, you know, is like a mindset of mine, when another person could have the mindset, you know, I'm providing value, I'm trying to help people online, so like what I'm doing at the gym is like helping other people, so then they'd be more likely to do it, right? Just by having a better paradigm towards that action. Or another kind of version of that for myself is, you have to be someone who you would want to listen to about the thing to like teach other people about the thing. That's something else I've been thinking about, is how for me to want to make like fitness content, I want to have the type of physique that I want to have, right? Rather than like documenting the journey. So I've been working out for like, you know, 7 or 8 years right now, something like that. But I still am not at like the final numbers that I want to hit before I'm like, okay, like I feel like I can be like an authority and like give people advice on the space, because I'm where I want to be, so I feel confident. Because that's a frame I've always had, is why would I want to listen to you if you're not in the position I want to be in? But the thing with this is, it's very nuanced, right? You have to do it case by case, right? For working out, maybe I would listen to Ronnie Coleman about how to do an exercise, because obviously, like, very successful bodybuilder, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, another example, or C-Bomb, a very successful in their field, they know what they're talking about, it would make sense to listen to them. Versus, you know, some 16-year-old who just started working out for 2 months. Like, which one would you want to listen to, right? So that's always been my thing. But the flip side of that is, just because they're good in one field doesn't mean you should listen to them about everything, right? So you have to be very discerning for what information you want to take and for what the objective goal that you're trying to solve is. For instance, you don't need to take, you know, financial advice from a bodybuilder, because, well, what do you know about finances? Maybe they do have good advice, maybe they don't. That's not the point of this. The point is, you want to learn from the people who are in the position for the specific thing you're trying to learn from, right? But to wrap it back, for me, like, I want to make more business content, but my business is not in the position necessarily that I would want my business to be in if I were to like teach other people how to do it, right? I don't feel like I'm at that level yet where I'm making like $1 million a month or something, where I feel like, okay, now I can teach other people what to do, because I am like where I would want to be if I was like starting off. So, I mean, I guess you gotta take more of like a document approach. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about that. That's something I kind of actively struggle with for making content, how you have to be the type of person that you'd want to be before you can kind of teach other people about it. And I get it, there's the whole documenting frame, you can like document the process, which is what I'm trying to do here, and it's kind of like the lessons that I'm learning about, or I'm just thinking about on a day-to-day. But anyways, that's what I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Remember, take consistent action on your main thing, and don't stop. Peace.